Welcome to part one of the Masterclass in Generative AI, where we're going to learn to recognize AI and what AI actually means. So artificial intelligence describes the ability for a computer to do something that we would normally associate with human intelligence. This includes things like language, so communicating with other thinking beings, reasoning and problem solving, the ability to look at a problem and find a solution to solve that problem. Perception is another one. That's the ability to sense the world around us. So with sight or sound or feeling, taste, etc. Take in those senses and make sense of the world and act in response to those senses. Creativity is another one. So that's creating novel solutions, whether to find solutions to problems or artistically to create new artwork. And learning is another one, and that's a big one for us at the university, of course, all of us associated with the university in one way or another. The ability to develop new skills and develop new knowledge that the AI system is not pre-programmed with. And so we're not born learning, knowing how to drive a car, for example. That's something that we learn over time. And similarly, an AI system isn't necessarily pre-programmed to do what it can do. It will learn how to do that. And we'll come to how it learns how to do that in just a moment. So AI is everywhere. AI includes things like content recommendation engines, like when Netflix suggests what kind of shows you might like to watch, or when YouTube recommends what the next video you should watch would be. That's an example of AI recommending things to you. Your social media feeds are another example of AI. The order in which the posts appear, including which ads appear in your feed and the order in which they appear, that's all governed and provided by AI algorithms. Automated factories is another example of AI. So companies like Amazon have fully automated distribution centers where AI algorithms decide where stock should go and where it should go, and even robots that actually move these things around. Digital assistants like Siri or Alexa is also an example of AI where it is interactive and can feel like you're talking to an actual person to a greater or lesser extent. Online banking security is also an example of AI where a potential fraudulent activity is identified and hopefully blocked before it actually happens. Similarly, email spam filters are an example of AI, where potentially dangerous emails are identified and blocked before it actually gets to your inbox. And there is much, much, much more. See, I haven't even mentioned generative AI yet, and AI is simply everywhere, which is why critical AI literacy is really important to actually understand how this AI works and how it is affecting you. So what is generative AI? How does that fit into this broader collection of AI technology? Well, generative artificial intelligence can create content by learning how to recognize and replicate patterns from large amounts of data. Generative AI has actually been around for a while. So, for example, when you think of machine translation or Google Translate, really is an example of generative AI, that it can create content that feels sort of human-like, does something you would normally associate with a person having to do. But those tools are very specific. They can do specific tasks very well. A major step forward was made in around 2017 with the invention of large language models. Large language models are a type of AI that can understand and generate language and text in a way that feels almost human-like. Now, in November 2022, public awareness and use of generative AI greatly expanded with the launch of ChatGPT by OpenAI, which many of us will remember how it sort of took the world by storm very quickly. The reason that this interest in generative AI exploded, even though it had been around for a little while, was that ChatGPT was free. Anyone could log in and interact with it. The quality of the responses that you get from ChatGPT was greatly improved to similar tools that we may have played with in the past. It felt more like you were working with an actual person than previous tools. And also, you didn't need technical coding ability to interact with it. Similar systems which had existed for a few years required you to interact with things called APIs and use programming code to actually see the capabilities that are possible with these tools. But ChatGPT was free for anyone to actually log in and use. Most major technology companies now provide their own Gen AI tools to the public. So these are things like Microsoft has Copilot, which exists as its own sort of chatbot, but also it's integrated throughout the Microsoft Office suite and in Windows. Google has Gemini. A company called Anthropic has Claude. Adobe has integrated generative AI throughout its suite of products, including Photoshop and Premiere Pro, as well as Adobe Firefly, which can be used to generate images. Midjourney and Stable Diffusion are examples of image generators, and there's a lot more too. And Grammarly also uses generative AI. So some people aren't aware that in 2023, Grammarly added generative AI features to the tool. And so you may have been using Grammarly for a while and not actually realize that this now really counts as a generative AI tool. Many people believe that Gen AI will have a major impact on the world, and that's myself included, and that it's already having an impact on how people work, study, and live their lives. So how might you use Gen AI? Now, this is going to be fairly high level, broad advice of some of the ways that you might be able to use Gen AI to benefit you, particularly in learning. But again, remember, you need to check and make sure what is actually allowed in your assignments. What are the requirements? What requirements are there before you actually use it in these ways? But these are a few ways you might use generative AI. One is to brainstorm ideas. You could ask an AI, a generative AI tool like ChatGPT, to creatively brainstorm some ideas for you of what to tackle. If you've only got a vague idea of what you want to do, you could use AI to brainstorm ideas for you. You could also use Gen AI to structure your thoughts. So again, if you've got a broad idea of what you want to create, perhaps it's a report you want to write or a blog post you want to create, you could ask Gen AI, you could put into Gen AI what your vague ideas might be and ask it to structure that into some kind of logical format for you. You could use Gen AI to edit your work. You could put work into Gen AI and ask it to find where there are grammar mistakes or to fix up just the readability and how easy it is for that text to communicate. You could use it in that way. But again, like I said, you need to use that within the requirements of your assignment and what is actually allowed for that particular assignment. You could use Gen AI to create a personalized tutor. So you could actually set up a Gen AI tool to teach you something and to explain concepts that you're trying to learn in a way that you understand using metaphors from areas that you already understand really well. If you're really into cars, you could ask Gen AI to explain a scientific concept to you using things about cars as an example, just as an example of how that could be used. But as you'll see a little bit later, we need to be really careful about taking what Gen AI actually says seriously. It can get things wrong, which we'll see a little bit later. You could use Gen AI to get diverse feedback. So you could put some work into Gen AI and ask the chatbot to pretend it's different kinds of people and provide different kinds of diverse feedback to you. So one author has used Gen AI to use to almost like a test reader. To get it to act as 10 different kinds of potential readers and provide feedback on what they think about the work before then actually showing that work to real humans to do something similar. You could use Gen AI to generate a diverse set of options. So you might not quite know what you're trying to achieve. So you could ask Gen AI to create several different approaches, and then you can compare and contrast them and decide which one you could use as inspiration to actually create your work. So for example, if you're writing a blog post, you could ask Gen AI to write 5 different possible introductions, and you pick the tone and the message that you actually want to go with and use that as inspiration to then write the rest of it yourself. You can also use Gen AI to summarize information, to synthesize information, and to analyze data. So you could use it to take a bunch of academic literature, for example, and ask it to summarize what the broader body of literature is saying. So almost to do like a literature review. But again, in a way that you then should go check manually and make sure that what the AI bot has said the literature says is actually the case.